Good morning, class, and welcome back to our video lectures. I'm starting to feel a little bit better. Well, a lot better. I can actually hear about 90% of the time now. I just hear a little ringing, but that's okay. But I wanted to get back to our video lectures because I know that they are beneficial to your PowerPoints, right? Because I do like to follow up with asking different questions or bringing up, different examples. So for week, what we're going to be talking about is communication, right? Communication is a very big thing, right? Just this morning, when I was talking to my youngest, that's almost 5 years old, she's like in la la land. I feel like constantly I'm like, you need to focus. Look at me in the eyes and show me that you're listening, right? And then tell me, what did I tell you, right? Repeat after me. What did I just tell you? That you need to go make your bed. What did I say? Oh, mommy, can we get ice cream after school? No. What did I just say? Right? Communication, it's the key, right? It's a big deal, right? Because without communicating, we would not be able to get our point across, right? So not only is communication important in our relationships, but it's important in general, right? Communicating, say for example, in class, right? I'll have students that never communicate with me in terms of their assignments throughout the entire semester. And then the last week of class, I'll receive an email, Miss White, am I going to pass your class? Or how can I pass my class? Well, did you communicate with me throughout the semester? No. Well, maybe you should have contacted me, right? We could have had different conversation in terms of what we could do in terms of bringing up your grade, right? The same way that we may communicate with our partners, right? I communicate with my partner, with my husband, every single day. There are times where I'll say, like, he'll say, just the other day, he's like, what are we doing this Saturday? And I look at him, I'm like, did you read the calendar? You know I'm obsessed with the calendar, Christopher. He'll say, no. Right? There are times that you're just like, oh my goodness, right? So communication is a very big point, right? It's a very big deal. So, according to Sapir and Whorf hypothesis, the concept that language shapes our culture, and at the same time, our culture is shaping our language, right? We communicate through language. If we do not have language, we cannot verbally speak. We communicate in the deaf community, sign language, right? Communication, right? We're talking. Language is very beneficial, right? So active listening, there's a difference between active listening, attentive listening. A lot of times, if you go into a job interview, this is exactly what you want to pay attention to, right? That you are communicating with body language. You may speak with your hands. I do a lot of speaking with my hands, right? Eye contact. You don't go into an interview and you're like, the reason I want this job is because I really want to further my career and really get ahead. And then one day when I want to, do something with my life, right? There's a difference between, that kind of communication and looking at someone in the eye, being extremely attentive in the way you listen, in the way you talk, right? Because it shows that you're interested, right? That's a very good thing. Again, think of the times that you've gone on a date with someone, right? Yeah, I guess. Again, you want to know that, they're listening. When you go on a first date, a lot of the times, right, you're very attentive. You're like, oh, yeah, I totally agree. Oh, I love that movie. That movie was great, right? You sometimes overly attentive or overly expressive, right? Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing, right? Verbal communication, the spoken exchange of thoughts, feelings, or other messages, right? One of the things that you're going to notice is that in this week's PowerPoints, besides this one for this chapter, was the PowerPoint from Father Clifton's presentation. Now, I know oftentimes students will say, oh my goodness, it's a Catholic priest. He's going to try to convert me, right? That is not the case, okay? Father Clifton is a really great friend of ours. And the reason I bring him into class is because he sees couples on a daily basis that have trouble with communicating, right? These are couples that are having a difficulty in terms of listening, in terms of talking to one another, in terms of resolving problems that are on right there on that thin line between staying married or divorcing and separating, right? And so you're going to notice that throughout the video lectures that that I posted, he talks about stonewalling, right? What happens when you stonewall a person, right? Because there's times, like I always tell my students, there are mornings when I wake up and I see my husband sleeping right next to me, I'm like, oh God, he's still here, right? Like right? We had just gone into an argument. That doesn't mean because we got an argument over what we're going to have for dinner, right? That the relationship is over. I'm leaving you. You wanted pizza and I wanted pasta. We're done, right? It's learning how to argue, right? A lot of us would say that arguing is beneficial, right? Can you imagine my mom? I never believed her. And now, she had an aha moment the other day. She used to always thrive and be so proud of herself that she never argued with my dad and they never got in a fight for the first 8 years of their marriage. I was like, there's no way possibly on earth, right? Well, not too long ago, she told me, oh, your dad would come home with all these fish and he'd come home from the store and he'd buy something and be like, and you never said anything? Well, no, because I couldn't say anything because he was the one that was working and I stayed at home with you kids and I couldn't say anything. I was like, and you never got upset. Well, yeah, there was many times that I would go lock myself in the bathroom and I'd cry because, I get so upset, but I wouldn't say anything to him. Let me tell you, 38 years of marriage now, oh, those two bicker. Like my mom does not hold her tongue anymore, right? But again, is it good to argue? Is it good to have a fight, right? Oftentimes we'll say, you blow it up. And then you get this, you get really into it, you have a fight, and then you resolve it. Or maybe you don't. But you also have to remember that when you argue with a person, you go into an argument, how many times have you gone into an argument with someone and you think, you know what, I'm going to let them win this argument. Go ahead, have at it, right? Never! Half the time when that person is right at you, this in your mind is going, oh, I'm going to bring up what that person did 10 years ago. Oh, remember when he dated, what's her name? Like 10 years, 15, 20 years ago? Oh, So what are you doing? You're ignoring, you're not being an attentive listener of what they are yelling at you for, right? You're too busy thinking of what am I going to ambush that person back with, right? And you're going back and forth, right? Father Clifton's going to talk about that, right? And how beneficial and how bad that can be, right? He's going to talk about the different exercises that he has with the couples in terms of communicating, where it is like a 2-year-old. Like, tell me word by word how you feel, and then you're going to repeat it back, okay? So different hand gestures that we have, you're going to learn, that, giving the middle finger in some countries is a bad thing, and in other countries it's acceptable, right? So again, the different cultures that we have. Electronics is screwing us in a way, right? Because think of like when you start, even when I was dating my husband, phones were by phones, you guys, I mean like the flip phones, right? So we did not have like the text messaging that we have now, right? But back then when I was dating, it would be like, okay, so we went on a date, like, should I call him now or should I just wait a couple of days? Because then if I wait a couple of days, it's not going to seem like I'm desperate. But then if I don't call in a couple of days, then it's going to seem like I'm not interested. So what can I do? Do I call him? Do I not call him, right? It's like the little caricature that I put, the little, the text messaging, right? Like, how should I text message now? With what emojis? Because if I put a certain emojis, I'm going to look like I'm too easy, right? Or, I'm desperate, right? So we're starting to see that the whole thing in terms of electronics, right? Our writing is influencing our speech. How hard is it to pick up a phone or to see that person and say, I had a great time, right? No, instead it's easier for us to show, oh, now if you guys did like the new enhancement on the iPhone, when you text message, you can actually like find like a little meme, like a little like, picture I sent two of them to my husband yesterday, little Disney, Mickey and Minnie kissing, right? God forbid that I call him and say like, hey, I love you, honey. Oh, no, it's cuter to send a little picture of Mickey kissing Minnie, right? But again, it's, our relationships are becoming a lot different because of our communication in terms of electronics, right? In another class, I don't know if it was this class or in another class, I found a picture of a meme also in terms of, oh, tell me on Facebook how much you love me so that everyone knows how much you love me, right? That's a different one, right? Maybe you know someone, or maybe you're the type of person that, instead of having a conversation with your partner face to face, or in a different room, you're typing, oh my goodness, I love you so much on Facebook, right? Sometimes we're like, oh my goodness, get a room, right? Sex differences in terms of communication. Why do women and men communicate differently, right? This falls into the whole idea of gender roles and stereotypes in terms of, women nag so much and women always want to talk and, she's on her period this month, and so she's so whiny, and she's so emotional, and that's why she's acting so irrational, right? So that actually plays a really big role in terms of why we see these different patterns in terms of communicating with men and women, right? Men, don't fully have to, full on have conversation with their male friends of what's going on, whereas my husband makes fun of me all the time, where I talk to my best friend on a daily basis pretty much, and we have these conversations of like what's going on in life, and then I'll ask my husband like, well, what did you and Adam talk about? Football. I'm like, but didn't you tell him like what's going on or anything? Like, actually a year ago this time, my husband's grandmother was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and actually she passed away 3 weeks later. And so I found it very comforting in talking to my best friend and talking to friends, my mom, and my husband did not want to talk to anyone about it. And I kept telling him like, you need to talk to someone so that you do not bottle this up, all these emotions, and then one day it's just going to blow and pop like a bubble, and it's just going to be like a waterfall. It's going to be not fun, right? And he's like, well, that's how guys deal with their emotions different than women, right? So again, it's these roles, right, that we feel that men and women are to fulfill, right? So quantity of, right, who talks the most, right? Do women and men use different words, right? There are times where, it says women more often use weak expletive, like, oh dear, oh my, where guys actually will say maybe like the F word, or use, obscenities. That's not to say that women do not know how to curse, let me tell you, because my potty mouth has sometimes ran a lot too, right? But again, like these different, in terms of who controls the interaction, right? There was a clip on, I don't remember if it was Dr. Phil or Oprah or who it was, but said, depending on who gets home first, you want to give that person some time when they get home so that they can relax. Because the last thing that they want is, if they've had a long day at work, is to come home to hearing about like, look at what the kids did. This is what we need to do. This is our finances for the month, right? Instead of like bombarding them, right, with like overload, and giving them time to relax, right? To acclimate to being home, to making that division between, being at work and being at home. Being at work and being at home, right? Telling a person something private about yourself that he or she would not know otherwise, right? Self-disclosure. This is very important because we really have to trust this person, right? We're not going to go out to see whoever, the mail lady, right? As I see outside my window, she's delivering the mail. I'm not going to go out there and tell her my life story or what's going on right now, right? Whereas again, I would have a conversation, a self-disclosure conversation with my best friend. Again, someone that you can rely on, someone that you trust, right? The windows on myself. So the whole idea of, known to self and others, blind to be seen by others, right? How much are you willing to disclose? There's some people out in this world that they will tell you exactly how they feel, and you have no idea who they are, and they will tell you their life stories, right? And there's some other people, it's like pulling teeth, like, tell me more about you. And it's like, you start to think like, well, what is it about me that you do not trust me with this? Like, why aren't you talking to me, right? So again, this whole, seems like it's a inner web, right, of problems in terms of problem solving, conflict, communication, right? Types of conflict. There's different types of conflict that the PowerPoint goes through. Personal conflict styles. You may be avoiding, right? If you're in an argument, you might want to avoid them. I'm that type of person. When my husband and I argue, I will be so worked up, and he may be so worked up, and he can always make that distinction where he can be so mad, and he'll still come over and he'll give me a hug and he'll say, I love you so much. I know we're arguing, but I love you so much. And then I will look at him and I'll say, don't touch me. I want to be by myself, right? He's like, can't you hug me? I'm like, no, I can't hug you right now, right? So the whole idea of what is your style, right? Are you accommodating? Are you saying like, okay, I know you're arguing, but I see what you're saying, right? Or can you hug him back? It's very rare that I can do it back and I'll be like, I'm so mad at you, but I love you so much right now, right? Competing, compromising, collaborating. Again, another personal conflict style that Father Clifton would touch upon would be stonewalling, right? When you do not absolutely, you're done. It's like talking to a wall, right? The power control and decision making in terms of power, resource theory that we talk about, relative love and need theory, that we have the theory of power that looks at the way that love itself is feminized, defined, and interpreted. And then we also look to power control and decision making in gay and lesbian relationships. So power operates in same relationships just as heterosexual ones, right? Couples may face many of the same issues. You figure if we're all human beings, regardless of who we love, who we identify as, we're still going to have problems that everyone else has, right? Financial, depression, so many different issues that we all as human beings are still going to relate to, right? Regardless of who we're dating, who we're married to, right? Researchers have also noted the differences which may be rooted in gendered expectations, and that's exactly what I talked about earlier, right? In gender of gender roles in terms of what it is to be labeled as a male or to be labeled as a female. Okay, so that brings us to the end of our PowerPoint. I wanted to let you guys know that I have put up the study guide for midterm 2. Again, please make sure that you do see the video lecture for Father Clifton. It will be included in midterm 2. Next week, I will be placing, either the next week or the following week, I will be placing the final 5 final clips for Father Clifton's lecture. Again, it will be included in the midterm. I'm sorry that I had to cut it up into so many different parts since YouTube only lets me do 15-minute increments. It's kind of annoying that I'm not able to put it all in one. So I'm sorry about that. Next week, also October 9th, is your next news reflection that is due. If you guys have any questions, please refer back to week 1 module where it has the instructions as well as an example. Okay? Again, you guys enjoy the rest of your week, and I will see you guys next week for your next lecture.